I wonder if I can edit in YouTube. Does anybody know? Hello, hello, hello. Hey, three chicks. Hey, Eason, Jessica, Bernadoodle. Hello, hello. Jamie, hello. Jessica. Oh, this one's working out better. I was here just a second ago and it wasn't like it was frozen or something. Hello, hello. Okay. Oh, I found the retouch button on YouTube and used it. Yes, I did. Hello, Jamie. Happy Saturday. It's been a long time since I had like an appointment with you guys. I said I'd be here at noon. It's noon 10. That's not too bad. 10 minutes late. All right. Hello, hello, hello. No, I'm just now coming in, Shay. I was actually a little bit late. Yeah, I know. I thought, I'm like, And I'm on YouTube also. And I found the retouch button on YouTube so I don't have to look quite so haggard. So full disclosure, I am a retouch kind of gal. Yeah, we're going to get started in just a second. Oh, you know what? I should go grab an oracle deck, huh? Tell you guys. Well, we'll just talk about tarot today. And we can talk about oracle, and if I need to, I'll go get a deck. Excuse me. Oh, you know what I was gonna... Well, maybe we'll just do tarot next week. We'll just talk about psychic stuff today. All right, all right, all right. How is everyone on this Saturday? Is it as hot where you are as it is here? It's pretty warm here in Colorado. All right. You guys let me know when you're ready. Made some of my notes. Oh, I bet it is. Because you guys have the humidity too. Kentucky's pretty though. Rancid meat. Why is your name Rancid Meat? I'm not sure what to think about that one. That's funny. New Zealand, hello, how are you? Hey, Sue on YouTube. Appreciate you being here. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Hey, Steele. Hey, Grover. New Zealand, that's so cool. Jersey, that's cool. Kentucky is beautiful. It was my band name on Guitar Hero back in the day. That's hilarious. Utah in the house. All right. Very cool. All right. All right. I think we're going to get started because I'm going to be on for about an hour. Oh, it's 12:12 here. Just changed. So Spirit's like, get going, girlfriend. Yes. Thank you for the share, Grover. Appreciate that. All right. So one of the first things that I started, okay, so my name is Mariana. I'm an animal communicator, psychic. I do psychic tarot, and I do mediumship, evidential mediumship. And one of the things about getting started in this is that I think it was very important for me to be psychic before I moved into mediumship. It's kind of like learning to walk before you learn to run, before you learn to play football, right? So there's steps to everything. And so what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to try and do this every Saturday for an hour for probably about 6 weeks, and I'll take a break, and then we'll see how it's going, right? But I want to talk about what psychic actually means, because a lot of people misunderstand psychic, and they think that once you're psychic, you can see somebody's whole life. Like, let me rancid meat. Suddenly I can just tap in and I can see her whole life. I can see all the mistakes she's made. I know her deepest, darkest secrets. And that just isn't true. I haven't found that to be true. I think anyone that claims that they can do that is probably full of shit. No. Now, if you said, hey, I want you to look at this, right? Like, so we can go to a specific time and place in someone's life. We can go to a specific event, if you will. When we're reading the cards, we can tap into the situation. But people act like we get some kind of movie download. And like, you know what I mean? It just has not been my experience at all. And I think anyone that says that is blowing smoke up our butts. You know what I mean? But I do want to talk about what psychic actually means, and it actually comes from the Greek word psyche, which means soul, mind, or life. It didn't originally mean fortune teller. It really had nothing to do with that. Hold on, I'm already drinking water. So, and every culture has different words for these experiences, right? I just got water all over my face. Jesus Christ. And that's part of what I was doing the mediumship and God for, is to show where some of this stuff started, why people are kind of against it today, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but people are. Every culture has a different word for these experiences. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it discernment. And if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in there. Uh-oh, what happened to YouTube? Well, that was weird. I got kicked out of YouTube for some reason. All right. So some people call it intuition. Some people call it discernment. Some people call it prophecy. Some people call it inspiration, insight, gut instinct, wisdom, the Holy Spirit, sixth sense, or simply knowing. So the labels change, right? Especially through different eras. They called it one thing in the 60s. They called it one thing in the 1800s. They called it something else in the 1700s. They call it something else in 2026. So the labels change, but the human doing it is the person that doesn't really change, right? So we all have the ability to do this. So when you look at me and you think, oh, she's really good at that, what you should actually see is the years of practice, the years of being wrong, the years of being embarrassed because I was wrong, right? And I can still be wrong, so don't misunderstand that. So it's very important to understand that just because someone claims that they're special or they have a gift, we all have this. It's just inherent to being human is what I have figured out. Well, I didn't figure it out. It's what I've understood. All of this was figured out long before we came along. So I want to talk about, so how do you get to the psychic part of knowing something about someone else or a situation, right? It's through our senses. And we have our regular 5 senses, but there are actually a shit ton more senses than we kind of realize. We have a temperature sense. We have, we'll go through these 5 first. So modern neuroscience recognizes the sensory systems, including vision, right? Hearing, taste, smell, touch, balance, body position, and internal body awareness. And there's more. So you guys can always Google like what other senses come along. There's temperature sense, pain sense, itching sense, pressure sense, hunger sense, thirst, sense of time, sense of movement. So like our brains are basically processing millions and millions of pieces of information every single second. Only a tiny fraction actually reaches our conscious awareness, especially if we're like when we're sleeping, when we get up, when we go to the bathroom, when we shower. A lot of these things we just do. We know if we smell smoke. We know, oh shit, I forgot to put the battery back in the fire alarm, and suddenly we're thinking about that, right? So one of the things I've always done in my classes for psychic stuff is I'm going to say a word here in a minute, and then you're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. What is that? It's a game we used to play in school. Remember that? And I'm gonna try to make it have something to do with our senses. Hey guys. So sense of time. Okay, so our brains are processing millions of bits of information. Only a tiny fraction actually reaches our conscious awareness. And sometimes what we call our intuition is actually just our subconscious noticing patterns long before our conscious mind catches up. So if you're neurodivergent, if you have had a dysfunctional childhood, if you were abused or picked on or autistic or undiagnosed, you have more of a pattern recognition. It doesn't mean that other people don't. It just means that your pattern recognition is probably a little bit on steroids. Your senses are on steroids. Your pattern recognition is on steroids because you got used to people being pissed off when they walked into a room. You got used to people being drunk around you. You got used to, in the 70s, we got, I don't know what you can say on here anymore. You know, the belt that the dads would pull out of their, what are those, the belt buckles, you know, or the, my goodness, the belt loops. And then they would take the belt. You knew when that was coming, right? So you got used to reading the energy of the people before sometimes they even came into the room. But definitely after they got into the room, hypervigilance, that's a perfect word for it. Thank you so much. Yes. So hypervigilance is real. And I think it's why we have so many neurodivergent people in this niche, is because it's a place where we can use our pattern recognition. It's a place where we can help other people. We can feel good about it. Anybody that does this work that acts like they don't get a dopamine hit also when they help someone or when they're right, I think they're kind of full of shit. So the reason I say about the senses is because that is how you use your psychic ability. Okay. So if I'm going to, somebody asked me, I don't know why YouTube keeps turning off. I have no idea why. I'm sorry, Sue. I don't know why it keeps turning off. If do you have TikTok, Sue? Do you just want to come over to TikTok? I might just have to do it on TikTok and upload it to YouTube. YouTube and I are just not. All right. It can be so healing. So Reagan says it can be healing for the reader as well. 1,000%. And I think that people overlook that because a lot of people like to sit there and say, you shouldn't be doing this work. And I know technology and you shouldn't be doing this work until you're healed. Okay, well, we're all going to our graves unhealed about something, you know what I mean? Because something happens, you're like, oh, I'm a little better. Something else happens. Oh, I'm a little better. Something else happens. The whole idea that you have to be healed to do this work is bullshit. It's just bullshit. I think that this work, I know that this work in the last 10 years has helped me stay here for the last 10 years. Yeah, we don't have to be perfect. We're still human. Exactly. Now, obviously, if you're going through some sort of like a mental, sorry, you guys, I have my fan on because I don't have AC. Totally agree. Doggy Mom says we're never 100% healed. Totally agree. So, a lot of people, now, obviously, if you're having some mental struggles, that's going to be a little different than avoid live now to avoid end live now. Is this a real? Hold on, you guys. Come right back. It says violation detected. End live now to avoid a 1-month suspension. Is that a troll? Can you see it too? Oh, it's fake? If only I was fucking psychic. Second, okay, all right. I did not know that. Let me see if I can mute them. That's gonna suck if I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oops. I didn't mean to turn on filtering, and I turned on filtering. I just blocked them. So they got me. They got me. Too bad I'm not psychic, huh? If only I was psychic. It was kind of funny, though. That's funny. Oh, thank you, hold on. I got to turn off these filtered Jesus H and F Christ. There we go. Show filtered comments. I don't care. Just... Thank you, Care Bear. I think I blocked him. I forgot you were a mod. Okay, let's get back to this. So when... Fuck me right now. I can't get back to you guys. Hold on. There we go. I'm back. Oh, Danielle, that is sweet. I am often misgendered, so I'm not sure if you're just pulling my leg or if you're just being sweet. So I appreciate that. I think you're pulling my leg, but let's see. Let's see if Danielle has a troll account. Oh yeah, 0 following. Yeah, you're funny, Danielle. That's okay though. I don't mind being misgendered. Okay, let's stay on I gotta focus. I gotta focus. So, what we were talking about are the senses, because how do you get to the information in the energy? So, for example, I appreciate that, Aware. Yeah, they're a troll. They're just pulling my chain. How do you get to the information that's in the energy? So every single one of us right now has an energy field around us. I know, exactly. Every one of us has an energy circle around us. Have you ever seen the TikTok where it talks about horses and their aura and their energy goes out like 6 feet? We have that as well. And there's, you know what? I do want to see the comments. There's also something that I talk about in my psychic class, and it's called the Marilyn Monroe effect. And you can actually look it up. Marilyn Monroe, the story goes, is that she was on the subway with a reporter. And she had a scarf on, and this would have been, how Marilyn dressed, right? She had a scarf on, but she was just dressed normal, maybe some sunglasses. And they're on this subway and nobody knew it was Marilyn Monroe. And she tells the reporter, she says, "Do you want to see her?" And he says, "Do I want to, what?" She says, "Do you want to see her?" She takes off her sunglasses, she takes off her scarf, and she throws her energy and her aura and her personality to basically what was called the 4 corners of the room. And she just went like this and opened up her aura. So there's something called being big and being small. We can be invisible. If you've ever worked in the restaurant industry, you know that you've been invisible. If you grew up in a dysfunctional childhood, you know you've been invisible. If you have ever gotten older as a woman, you know that sometimes you walk in somewhere and you are just invisible. Well, you can control that. You can control when you're Marilyn Monroe and when you're invisible. And so one of the exercises I give students is to practice this on animals, practice it on strangers, practice it in the grocery store. Go into the grocery store one day and completely just try to be invisible. Just shrink down your energy, shrink down your aura, pull yourself in, see how many people don't even notice you. I did this one time and literally somebody ran into my cart. I'm like, well, you can see my cart, can't you? So see how many people don't notice you. But then I want you to do the absolute opposite. I want you to go to the park and I want you to make your energy big. And then see how many people notice you, right? Or in the same place. It doesn't matter where. You can also do that with animals. If you want to be invisible to an animal, you pull in all of your aura. You pull in, you're not dangerous. You're not, what's that called? Escalating, you know what I mean? But if you want an animal to notice you, you open it up and don't speak though. Just like I have two DOGs over here crashed on the couch. I was going to see if I could do it at the moment, but we're going to keep going. And because you're throwing your energy into everyone around you, they sit up and take notice. So if you've ever walked into a party and people turn toward you and notice you immediately, your aura is why they turned in there. This is about psychic education, energy reading, and it is the first Saturday. So thank you for being here. So if you've ever walked into a room and done that, you know that your personality, your aura comes in almost before you do. And our energy can be read like a book, okay? So we can go to certain pages. We can go to certain pages of other people. I do have one. And that is basically what you're doing when you're being psychic. You are legitimately just reading a book, a section of a person's life, a chapter, a page, a moment, an event of a person's life. Okay. Ooh, Cher has a hard time being too big. So then Cher, what you want to practice is bringing it in, right? You want to practice the invisibility cloak. You want to practice being small. Not small like you're going to stay that way, but, small as in everyone just turn to me. Can I change this energy right now? Okay. Okay, so Reagan says, I try to do that, but I feel like when I open my energy, I'm tapping in, it goes together. It can go together. You're in charge of when you tap in to something or someone. Well, I say that, but maybe not every single 100% of the time. Sometimes information will just come to you. The hard part is knowing, was that information actually meant for this situation, or was that information just something I walked by? I'll tell you guys another short story. I would have to drive to work in the morning. I would have to commute like an hour, hour and a half, whatever it was. And so I had to leave very early and it was still dark out. So I am on this, it's called Old River Road, and I was headed to Pueblo. And there was a, what are those things when you have candles and crosses? There was kind of a memorial thing going on at like 3:30 in the morning, no less, right? And I drove right by it, and I was literally just overcome with sadness. I started immediately crying, like their entire. I mean, I think the fact that it was 3:30 in the morning, the fact that I had seen this shrine there before, the fact that there was probably about 12 people there, and it just like came over me. I'm getting chills now just thinking about it. So sometimes information will, I don't want to say attack you, but it can be unexpected. On YouTube, if it cuts out for a minute, I will come back out. I will come back on. And for some reason, it keeps stopping. I don't know why. Oh, I'm so sorry. So some Hearts lost her kitty cat today. I'm so sorry. So your cat is still with you. I gotta focus. Your cat is still with you though. So when we were talking about the senses, right? Here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to, okay, sorry, I just got a phone call over on this phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a word out there, and I want you to figure out what scent. Number one, it's the word recognition, right? So we'll start with, let's say I say cat, okay? What is the first sense what's the first word? And what's the first sense that comes to your mind? And I want you guys to put them in the comments, right? All right, so let me write down a couple of words. And what are you accessing so I'm about to say words, and I want you to think about what, sorry. I'm going to say a word, and I want you to think about a word. So word association, that's what it's called. Okay, so for example, Rose said 9 lives. Now, what sense can you tie that to? Can you tie it to knowing? Can you tie it to a sense of movement, thirst, hunger, pressure, temperature, vision, hearing? So hopefully you guys showed up today with a pen and a paper. So for example, let's go with our first word, lemon. What word do you get that makes you think of a lemon? Or what word did you get word association? Okay, Rose said peel, lemon peel. Chick said sour. So chicks, okay, Kara says tangy, Nikki says taste, Rose says yellow, Morgan says lemonade, love that. Shay says yellow, Rancid said juice, Kara says martini, that's what I'm talking about, right? So we just had taste in there, we had sight in there, we had smell in there. Cher went song lemon tree very pretty. So Cher has a whole sentence for one word. okay? Did you see how you did that, Cher? Like, you came out with a whole... Now, when you start tapping into someone's energy, Cher, you're going to get, like, probably more info. But I also told everybody else just one word. So, Care Bear got martini. So if Care Bear is doing, let's say, a mediumship... Hold on, got to block someone else. I'll just mute him. There we go. He's been... dang it. I accidentally blocked him. I hope that's who I blocked. It goes very fast now. The user interface changed. So when you're doing a mediumship reading, or when you're doing an animal reading, or when you're doing a psychic reading, what comes to your head feels like your information, but it's really the information for you to give to the other person. So let's do another one. Let's do horse. What's your word association, and what sense can you tie it to? Nay. So you went sound. You went hearing. I love that, Reagan. Rancid said free. So you went to an internal feeling of energy. Rose said tail. So horse tail. Love that. Very tactile. Very, you could play with it. It might be something that you remember from childhood. Tall and calm. So Morgan went to the inner energy of the animal, right? Rancid said feeling. Steele said graceful. So do you see how every single person here is getting a different feedback for the same word? Does that make sense? Nikki said riding and falling. Right. Strength. Old News says strength. Moon says majestic and spiritual. Okay, so let me attack that, Cher, because that is not wrong. So, hooves, hay, snort, and tail. Love that. All right, so you're getting more, you're getting a few words coming in there, right? So what does it mean? Because Rose got one thing and Nikki got something else. What does that mean? It means that you're using your trauma, riding and falling. You're using your biases. You're using your memories. You're using your senses. You're using legitimately everything that you've ever lived, seen, heard, felt, smelt to come up with a word, okay? So then Cher says, something is wrong with me. I can't think of a word for the horse, but it takes me to a memory. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with that. I think that's what happened to Nikki, right? She says riding, falling. It's probably a part of a memory. Memories are a part of our senses as well. They are a part of who we are. Legitimately, if it takes you to a memory and you were talking to me, Cher, let's say you were giving me a psychic reading. I've said yes, all the permissions and blah, blah, blah. And we'll talk about that too. We're going to do about an hour today, maybe a little bit longer, but we're going to try and do this 6 Saturdays in a row. Anyone that's new here, we're talking about how to be psychic, why we're all psychic. We're legitimately all psychics. It's a part of being human. There is nothing scary about it. It didn't even mean, the original word psychic is a Greek word that didn't even mean psychic. We'll get back to that if anybody needs to hear it. However, Cher, let's say you're giving me a reading and it takes you to this memory that you had. That memory is very likely going to apply to the issue that I'm going through. Does that make sense? I don't know why YouTube keeps stopping. I do not know why YouTube keeps stopping. I got nothing. All right. So, does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. So we'll do just a couple more, because if we were sitting in class, we would do probably about 20 of these actually, right? We would do a lot of them. Why would we do a lot of word association? Because what does that do for you? It gets you in the habit of thinking of something right away. It gets you in the habit of responding without thinking, without consciously thinking. Does that make sense? Absolutely, Morgan. Yeah. So if we were sitting in class and we had a lot of time and everything, I would probably do about 20 or 30 words and you would write it down. And you can even do this yourself. Like, oh, I'm going to think of water. What does that remind me of? Or what do I smell? Or what do I taste? So let's do that. Let's say seagull. A seagull. What is the first word that comes to mind? And what sense do you think, what sense are you feeling? So Rose got beach. Morgan got some. She says she hears the ocean. Love that. So you're probably very and there's different words. We'll go through the clairs, but I don't really call them the clairs. So your hearing senses, Morgan, are something that you're going to rely on a lot. Here's something. This is going to be very stream of consciousness teaching. Here's something though. Water. Okay. Here's something is that I used to have teachers that would say, ask your spirit team to take away something so that you can work on something else. Okay. And I would cry through everything. When I first started this, I was so I'm just a very empathetic person, and I just would cry a lot. We're doing mediumship, for fuck's sake, right? So what I want you to do is never listen to someone that says, oh, you should ask your spirit guide to take away your empathy so you can work on other senses. Don't do that. Don't do that. You can ask them to turn it down. You can ask them, only really give it to me hard when I need it. But don't ask them to take away any of your senses. I should write a little pamphlet on the dumbest advice I've ever gotten in mediumship and psychic, right? Do not ask your spirit. Now, you can ask for another sense to be amplified, right? You can work toward another sense being amplified because we have hearing, seeing, knowing, tasting, smelling, right? So let's say you have bad eyesight. Maybe you're not relying on your eyesight memory in order to read other people or animals. Maybe you're relying a lot on your hearing. So if you have one that stands out, if I give you words and you consistently hear something, hearing is going to be one of the major ways that you get information. Okay? So Rose thought of a memory, Nikki thought of the ocean, Reagan thought of seeing, Lisa thought of a scavenger. I like that, Lisa. I like that a lot. Now, that's really creative because seagulls are absolute screech. That's another great one. Because seagulls are absolutely scavengers who make a lot of noise, right? But that's very creative because what if you were trying to read for a missing cat, which we did yesterday or the day before on a live, and you heard and you see or hear scavenger, right? Maybe you see a seagull, you think scavenger, and you realize, unfortunately, that maybe the cat got scavenged. I mean, you know, some of the reality in this is a little dark, right? Freedom, flapping wing, poop. So Cher thought of poop. I love that for seagulls, right? Absolutely. Ocean spray, cool of the water. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Trixie. So why is that important? Again, it's important for you to journal. Here's another thing you can do. I'm not very focused today, so I apologize, but you guys are getting a lot of good info. Here's another thing that I would do that I started back when I very first started is you make a symbol dictionary. So for example, sometimes you will have people that come to you and they're doing a reading and you know that they've had a loss, and that loss may have been a conscious choice when they were a younger woman. So what is that called? It's called, I don't know what we can say on here anymore. So, I mean, it's called a adortion, right? So in your symbol dictionary, maybe you might see a tiny gravestone, and that would be your symbol for an adortion, right? You might see sadness and then a baby wrapped up in a blankie. So you go through things, you go through word association, get out a dictionary, go open to a rando page and go to Bronc Rider, right? What do you think of when you get to that word? That goes into your symbol dictionary. Now, some of us, those symbols change every friggin' time. Some of us, the symbols stay the same. For example, a literal broken heart might mean divorce to you. And every single time you're reading for someone who's gotten a divorce and it's an issue, you will see a broken heart. But that can change for some people. So for me, it changes like literally, I don't think any two readings I've ever had have been the same, legitimately. All right, so let's keep going. So I'm going to do a couple more words. So let's go strawberry, and I'm going to hit you with 2 words, and then apple cider. Strawberry and apple cider. See what we get here. Okay, Rebecca says sweet. So she's tasting it, right? Shortcake, October, love that. So you have a food and a month. So I love that. Lisa said a field and a tree. Oh, Shade went right to a smoothie. I love that. Red is hard to grow. That's true. So Miss Moon, if you were giving a reading and apple cider comes up, somehow, some way, hard to grow, is this person resisting moving into the next phase of their life? Right? Because what came to your mind was hard to grow. And so now you need to say, you kind of need to validate with the person that you're reading, are you having a hard time moving into the next phase of your life? Or hard to grow? Are you having, I don't know, maybe they're a farmer. Morgan said spice. I love that. Sweet, red, fall. Love it. Red and spicy, summer, fall. Celebration. Absolutely. Absolutely. How many people have been to a festival and apple cider is all over the place? I love apple cider. It reminds me of a memory. We used to go and pick our own apples at this apple farm in Templeton. And they would have apple cider and they would have festivals and they would have like a little, kind of like a little farmer's market vibe going on. And they had like, I think they had, I want to say pony rides, but that might be a different memory and I'm mixing them up. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Seeds, red, juicy. Oh, you think apple cider's sour. So, okay. So I think there are different flavors of apple cider for sure, right? Farm, fall. So interesting that you said that, Miss Moon. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. So if you're reading for someone and you keep getting an apple and that's the first thing that comes to your mind, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, you probably need to talk to that person about their choices in what they're eating, right? Are you eating for health or are you creating your own issues? So you see where we're going with word association. You see how you get a feeling or you get a memory or you get a taste or you hear something. Every single one of these things is how you get information. Whether the information is coming from spirit guide. Now you always set your intention that you only want your information to come from legitimate sources that are here for the highest good. But that's just something that you just set that today, right now. You don't have to repeat it every time you come to do a reading. You don't have to open sacred space every day. We're not shamans, right? You can if you want to. Like if ritual is a part of what you want to do, you can if you want to. I know that for a while there, I would kind of sit in meditation. They used to call it sitting in the power. I haven't really heard anybody calling it that much anymore. It's just meditation. It's intention. And your intention is to get good information from positive, healthy, happy sources. You're not sitting down trying to talk to Lucifer. None of us are, right? All right. Let's keep going. All right. So the clairs, everybody likes to talk about the clairs because they're fancy names, right? Claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. You guys, clairvoyance, I literally have to look at, maybe I just get triggered by the whole clair thing because it's almost as if we're trying to put ourselves on a little bit of a pedestal, right? So also because I used to fall for the classes that were like, let's work on claircognizance or let's work on clairaudience. Literally, you should just be working on all of it at the same time. And so when you pay somebody $40, $50, $60 for a class to work on your ability to see, I felt kind of taken, right? After a while, I felt kind of taken. So the clairvoyance is seeing. So how do you see? We see with images. We see with symbols. Again, we talked about a symbol dictionary. Mental movies. Somebody, probably one of you, at least got one mental movie when you started to do the word association. Colors, dreams. You can see all of these in your mind's eye. I remember one time somebody making fun of me saying, oh my God, mental movies are cool. I remember one time somebody making fun of me on social media going, oh, she sees things, so she probably ready for a mental hospital, or she this, or she that. And I was like, we all see things. That's what our imagination is seeing things. If somebody tells you you have to be somewhere at noon, you tend to see something. You tend to see an alarm. You tend to see a clock. You tend to see where you're going. We all have a mind's eye. So for someone to say, oh my God, she's seeing things, well, I fucking hope so. You know what I mean? I hope I'm seeing something. Now, what if you were born blind? You're going to see it, sense it, hear it, maybe taste it in a different way if you have not had sight, right? Clairaudience is I hear. So this is going to be words, names, songs, internal dialogue. A sentence like happened to share just a minute ago. It happened to Shay. Apple cider makes me think of a celebration. That's a whole sentence, right? She heard information as a whole sentence. Does that make sense for everybody? Clairsentience is I feel. So we all hear, see of some sort, and we feel, right? Most of my information is just a knowing. Sometimes I will say I feel, but it's really just coming to me. Sometimes I'll say they said, but it's really just coming to me, if that makes sense. So you have to be ready for the information to come at you in different ways. Do you see what I mean there? All right, so I feel is emotion. It's the physical sensations we were just talking about. It's knowing when someone is upset. So we're just talking about energy, and if you grew up in a dysfunctional family, you have stellar pattern recognition skills. You know when someone is upset. You know when someone is angry. A lot of times you know when someone is lying. For some reason, that doesn't seem to... You'd think that we'd all be in perfect relationships since we can see and feel that, but that's not... unfortunately, that's not how that works. Okay, right. So Sue is over on YouTube, or Captain, excuse me, saying that's how I get information. I feel it or I just know it. And one of the biggest things for you guys to practice is getting that validation. So I can feel like you're 5'2", but until I say, would you understand being 5'2", or if we're doing a psychic reading, since we're talking about psychic stuff, it's very co-creative, right? And I would say, well, how tall are you? Because I feel like you're short, right? So until you get those validations, so I'm not walking around in the world going, oh, I know that lady over there cheated on her husband, right? I need validation for that. I can't just walk around and think that every piece of information that may come my way is true and honest about another person. Are you serious, Captain? Don't mess with me. Captain said she's 5'2". Are you serious? That's so cute. I love that. She is serious. All right, so she is short. So my example, that is so funny. That is so funny. So in your journal, I know, right, Reagan? You read me in April on a Zoom. Oh, very cool. I love that. You are too, Sue? Sue's over here is also 5'2". So we got the shorties over here on YouTube. That's funny. I'm so glad that YouTube finally got an enhance button so you guys don't have to see my real face. Anyway, don't do that. Don't put yourself down. I'm working on that. I'm working on that. I have a habit of putting myself down. So then we go into Claircognizance. This is when you know things, okay? So this is when information arrives and it just kind of, it's just complete, right? It was kind of like the conversation about being 5'2", right? It's just information came at me. You don't necessarily know why, but you simply know. But I will caution you again from assuming that you're always right about the information that's coming to you. Does that make sense? So we still have our biases, we still have our traumas, we still have our prejudices, we still have our opinions. For example, you will hear on social media a lot with psychics and tarot readers, if you have to ask that question, you already know the answer. That's not true. That's not fucking true. Like, people want validation. The whole reason to get a reading is to either validate what you already feel, or to creatively think about brainstorming in a new direction. Yes, Reagan, absolutely. She said, sometimes my psychic readings feel like a conversation, but I just know everything. And I question myself if it's my brain. And that's where you start to write down your hits, okay? So in this journal, where you're doing your symbol dictionary, you're also going to start writing down your hits. So for example, journal the big, journal being Marilyn Monroe, journal being invisible. Journal how it felt at the pet store, journal how it feels in the grocery store. You gotta journal these things because you want to remember them. I have copious amounts of fucking journals. Excuse my language, by the way, in case anybody didn't know I was a big potty mouth. Hello. So then you're gonna journal. Where was I going with this? Oh no! See, I gotta focus. In my classes, it's a little bit easier because I don't have comments, right? But I want the comments, but then it's me. Don't worry. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we talked about the symbol dictionary, the hits. So you're going to want to write down your hits. Today I went to the store. I saw this lady. She looked very sad, or she felt very sad. She didn't look sad, right? Because people look one way and they feel another. How many times have you talked to someone who is smiling and how's it going? And honestly, they're probably 3 days away from taking themselves out of the game. Happens all the time. So what people present and how people actually feel can be completely different things. So you walk by a lady dressed in her Sunday best and she's shopping for cucumbers and she smiles at you and you just know she's grieving. Now, don't walk up to strangers and talk to them about grief. But what you could do is use your friends and your coworkers, right? You could tap in just a little bit. Everybody's really concerned about permission. So ask permission if you want to. I just used to tap into people and then I would say, hey, are you sad today? And they would say yes, and it would be a hit. Does that make sense? You want little hits and you want to write them down because then you know what it feels like to be right and you know what it feels like to be wrong. Okay, does that make sense? So let's get back to the clairs. All right, so we talked about claircognizance, which is I know. The information arrives complete. You don't know why, you simply know. Never, ever, ever assume that you're always right. Just don't. Assume, in fact, assume until you have been validated, assume you're wrong. Unless you're in a reading. Anyways, we'll get there. Clairaudience. I don't even know how to say it, but it's like smelling stuff. Smelling perfume, cigars, flowers, smoke with no physical source. Do you see what I mean? We're not doing that today, Logan. Thank you for being here, though. We are actually having a little class on how to be psychic. Right, so the I don't know how to say it. It's smelling, okay? So let's say you're doing a reading for someone and you smell smoke. It could be their relative. It could be that they're trying to quit smoking and they're really struggling with it. It could be fire smoke. It could be campfire smoke. It could be, right? How many other kinds of smoke are there? There's cigar smoke. There's pipe smoke. The little pipes that people remember, the little Popeye. Clairaudience is an unexpected taste sensation. So you're never going to hear me say, let's work on our Clairaudience. Number one, it sounds presumptuous, right? I love that, Jennifer. Yeah. Jennifer is a past student. You're never going to hear me say, let's work on our Clairaudience. It just sounds stupid. Let's work on our, I already forgot what it was, taste. So taste. So when I said lemons, some of you went and you puckered up, okay? That is a literal direct reflection of you getting information. Lemon, right? Taste. What's another taste? Taste could be something you don't like. If you don't like black licorice, you might go like this, right? If you do love black licorice, your mouth might water a little bit, right? Pavlov's dog. Right after my mom passed, I smelled lilacs. Nothing was blooming and it was March. I love that. That's interesting. I used to smell them all the time too after my mom passed. She loved those. She loved those silly flowers. There is Clairempathy. This is something I didn't know. So it's just empathy. It's another sense, right? But the first time I heard Clairempathy, it kind of took me in. You got to be careful what sometimes marketing does, right? Ooh, let's work on your Clairempathy. It's just your empathy. But you can turn it up and turn it down, just like you can be bigger or smaller. Clairempathy or empathy, feeling another person's emotions, but not necessarily taking them on. I know that I used to absolutely take them on too much when I first started. I can smell and taste alcohol on people just watching them on my phone. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. I've never had, I don't know that I've ever had that info come through like that. So not necessarily taking them on, and as you get further along, you will learn to turn up your empathy or turn down your empathy. Yeah, so Reagan had to turn hers down as well. And then we have precognitive impressions. So these are still part of our senses, if you will. Even though they're impressions, they're precognitive, meaning obviously it comes before something. This could be dreams. I smelled popcorn right before someone came from the other side of the house to make some. I love that. And so these are kind of some of the examples, honestly, of you already having psychic hits, okay? If you smelled popcorn right before someone came from the other side of the house to make popcorn, you had a little mini psychic, micro psychic hit, right? That's all it is. It's information coming to you. Logan, we're not doing that today. We're doing a class. So I would even write that down, Shay, right? When you get those little psychic hits, I would even write those down. What about thinking about someone randomly right before they message you? Absolutely. Literally, it's in my notes. We're going to talk about ways that you're already psychic. See, this is what happens. I've already been on here for 50 minutes and I get distracted. But I also love talking about this so much. I love talking about this stuff. So precognitive impressions, dreams, strong feelings, knowing something is about to happen. Sometimes it feels like it's a coincidence, but then you have other people that say nothing is coincidence. I'm not sure how much I buy that nothing is coincidence. I mean, the universe would have to be working pretty hard for nothing to be a coincidence. Also, those precognitive impressions are just pattern recognition. To be working pretty hard for nothing to be a coincidence. Also, those precognitive impressions are just pattern recognition. Lost connection, even though it should have lost connection. I don't know. Okay.